All right, everybody, we're going to go ahead and start our panel. Hello, everybody. My name is Ashton Campbell. I'm a producer director locally. I'm also with the Texas Theater and the Oakland Film Festival. And this is a panel on when and should you upgrade your wireless. So I'm going to go down the line and we're going to meet our panelists today. We'll start here with TK. Introduce yourselves.
Hey, everyone. I am TK Edmondson. I'm currently the general manager at Gotham Sound Atlanta. I also do some boom opping and some playback teching. So yeah, that's me.
Hey everybody, my name is Tyler Faison. I'm over here at, with the Vandalay Sound Exports and Dependable Expendable side. Just do sound stuff a lot of times. So that's me and what I'm doing.
Hey, I'm Jack. I'm glad that my microphone is at least as loud as Tyler's, if not louder. I'm Tyler's work wife, the co-owner of Vandalay Sound Exports and Dependable Expendables.
I am Stacy Brownrigg. I'm a production sound mixer, freelancer, born and raised here in Dallas, and yeah, that's about all there is to that.
Great. I'm Nick Huston. I'm the sales manager of Gotham Sound in New York. I'm also a reality sound mixer and indie producer, and and I'm also monitoring the live stream questions. So hello from Ontario, Canada, and we're going to try and fix that audio for you.
Awesome. All right, thanks, guys. So I am not a sound mixer, so we're gonna talk about some things that layman's like me don't know. But let's just start with kind of the basics, and this could be for whoever wants to go first. What's like your rule or your golden rule of when you should start thinking about upgrading your wireless?
Okay,
Anybody
great.
jump in?
Yeah, well,
Looking
hold on.
at you.
However, there's a presentation, so we'll make the presentation part really, really fast. So the idea behind this presentation is not to, I'm in sales, right? So it's not to sell you something. It's really to figure out like if it's the right time for you to do this or to not do it. So I'm going to try to keep the sales shtick out of it. So anyway, when to upgrade your wireless. Number one, first of all, you should know what is new in the wireless world, which might inform you as to why you might want to upgrade, but not necessarily should. So first of all, gone are the days of obviously fixed frequency transmissions, but also single block transmissions. We're now in full spectrum transmission all the way from 470 to 608. Guard band, duplex gap, and 941. I'll talk more about that later. Transmitter remote control is now available with ZaxNet, Bluetooth, Dweedle tones, and more. Digital transmission is more efficient power transmission, so you can get longer battery life. And a 50 milliwatt digital transmitter is equal to or greater than the range of a 100 milliwatt analog transmitter. You're going to get better dynamic range, and also not on here, it's going to sound cleaner because you're not going to have that analog kind of warmth. It'll be nice, crisp digital, but also 32-bit transmission, never clip. A lot of the transmitters out there, you don't actually have to set the gain, which is wild. Recording wireless is an option. Better RF filtering on the receivers, and then there are multi-channel receivers. So instead of having a bunch of single-channel receivers, you could have a dual, a quad. There's an Ocho out there, and the 16.0. So why wouldn't you want to upgrade? Number one, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. If you don't need it, if you're a one-person band doing sit-down interviews, corporate or really low-budget indies, it doesn't make sense. Like if you're using one channel of wireless, fixed frequency and budget wireless work just as well for people doing that. 2.4 gigahertz stuff like Rode Link, AVX, Deity Connect, all good. And also, these are expensive. The entry-level market, you're going to get stuff for, let's say $500, and these new things are at any minimum $5,000 for a two-channel system. So they are pretty pricey. And you also generally need to buy lavaliers to go with them, which are also as pricey as the lower budget wireless. So why would you want to upgrade? Well, number one, as we've talked about many, many years ago, with the introduction of 5G, the FCC has required television channels to repack into the same spectrum that we use. So that's created increased frequency congestion. If you travel, for instance, if you're traveling between Austin and Dallas, different frequencies are going to work well in Austin than they are in Dallas or New York or anywhere. The more expensive systems, generally speaking, get better range. You can have multiple channels of wireless more easily if you're doing documentary or reality or scripted where you were required to have a bunch of channels. And with the digital stuff, I should mention, you get much easier RF coordination. You were talking about having the old chart where you have to cross-reference thing. You don't have to do that with digital. It's just, is it 500 kilohertz apart or not? And then also the introduction of computer interface for wireless workbench, wireless designer, WYSICOM manager. Encryption's important for some people, digital encryption, future proofing, so you don't have to buy wireless for a while. Better cast interaction, so people who are high-end actors really like little transmitters. They don't like to have bulges sticking out anywhere, and they also don't like to be touched. So if you can use that remote control stuff, it'll ingratiate you to them much faster. Less downtime, obviously, like if you are not having issues because your wireless works better, like that looks better on you. And as Stacy said earlier, keeping up with the Joneserizes, making sure that somebody doesn't see like, oh, well, so-and-so had this. Like you want to be on par for sure. All right, so if you upgrade, common question. So if you upgrade your wireless, can you charge more? And the answer is it depends, not always. So your current clients, you've been working with somebody for 2 years. If you turn around and say, hey, I got this new thing, I want to raise, they might say no. So you have to kind of play it by ear. But certainly if you're getting a new feature like wireless remote control or recording, you can definitely charge more. Upgrading can also set you up to bill more in the future for higher paying jobs that are more difficult or demanding, like a larger budget feature, reality, et cetera. And of course, more is more. So if you're adding wireless and you're bringing now 3 channels of wireless instead of 1, you can bill for 3 channels of wireless. So what should you do with your old wireless? So this is one way you can recoup some money and put it towards the purchase of new wireless. If you want to, number one, you can keep it. So you never know when you're going to need a backup or a camera hop or an extra channel, especially if the talent drops it in the toilet. You could sell it. So even if you've got something that's really old and potentially illegal, Facebook is worldwide, and you can sell stuff all over the world. And up-and-coming mixers are always looking for a good deal on wireless to get into the industry. You can also rent it to people that you know around town, or you can donate it for a tax deduction, or to feel good about yourself. Things to think about when you upgrade, just something to have in mind. Have a band plan. Know what frequencies work well in your area. Also think about like what you're going to use for camera hops and IFB transmission. And of course, don't forget about VHF, aka Comtech, or the 941 band. And another thing to think about is that really wideband receivers sometimes need additional RF filtering to really maximize performance. And then alternatives to upgrading your wireless, you can actually upgrade your microphone elements. So a lot of times, like people will put a better lens on a crappy camera, and they'll get a better picture. Same thing with wireless. You put a DPA head or a Sanken head on a Sennheiser G4, and it's going to sound better than that ME2. You can also buy used equipment. There are people that are going to be buying the latest and greatest and selling off something that's maybe 1 or 2 generations old, and you can scoop that up at a discount. Just make sure it's in a legal block, because as we said, with the FCC changes, there are some things out there that you should not get. And this little link there is pretty helpful, radioactive RF, to see what's good in your area. Another option is if you do have wireless that's compatible with external antennas, upgrading your antennas and RF distribution system, potentially with filtering, can pump new life into your old system. And that's it. That's the whole thing. So now we'll have the panel discussion, and we'll take questions from online.
Yeah, if anybody has a question, just raise your hand. I'll try to repeat the question out loud so everybody can hear it. But one of the things you talked about was that kind of caught my eye was getting or selling it. Like, you said Facebook? Is that your preferred? Is that the easiest one? Is it the best one? I mean, when you're trying to get rid of gear in general, but in the audio perspective, is that the one?
I mean, there's no real right way to do it, right? There's a lot of quality people here, and there's probably people that are interested in used gear. So probably the best way to do it is to somebody that you know. If you have a friend that's looking for something and you can cut them a deal and they pay you cash, like that's great. Facebook is great for interacting with people all over the world. I mean, my company, Gotham Sound, has, we have our own used gear section, but we take a commission. So I encourage people to sell it directly so that we don't have to take a commission. I don't have to feel bad about it. And eBay is the same way. So there's no real right way to do it, but all of those venues all work fine.
Just a reminder, there is a used gear table here at the Mixer. Out there, there's some good tentacles. There's some wireless. There's all sorts of stuff out there.
You have stuff over there, don't you?
I don't, but I just felt that it was
Play that 'cause you
pertinent.
did.
There's a couple of Facebook pages that have gear for sale, and I use it all the time to buy and sell stuff. And it's typically other sound mixers, so it's usually trustworthy. Rarely is there any bad players.
Yeah, I would also suggest if you go to Facebook, I'm a big fan of selling used gear on Facebook. You get a really big reach, and I do want to encourage cross-posting. Don't stick to just one group because one piece of gear may be good for several different kinds of location sound mixers, whether it's cart stuff or bag stuff, etc. So don't be afraid to cross-post. Just keep it updated and all that kind of stuff.
And there's also reverb.com, which, just depending on what you're selling, it's more music oriented than television production, but a lot of the microphones cross into that arena as well. There's also a commission that you have to pay, but there's a really broad reach for them as well.
You talked about donating. Do you donate a lot? Is that something that you've done?
A little bit. I mean, so I went to a high school that had a radio TV program, and so every so often when I get something that's kind of like, I'm never going to be able to sell this, but the kids would like it,
Sure.
I'll send it to them for sure.
Yeah, I gave my old P2 camera to a trade school recently.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm not going to sell this. I don't really need it. Just take it. But I think that's good for people to know, to actually donate it to the school thing is awesome. Like high school, trade school, community college, any of that. That's what I would recommend. But I don't donate audio gear often, so I feel like that's more I would always think you should sell it because it's not getting outdated as much. Or is it? I mean, am I wrong about that?
Well, I mean, it really depends what it is. I think that the one that I donated, I think was a fixed frequency 195 that I knew worked up in Boston, and that's where that school is. But sometimes it's just like, if you've got an old G3 or G2, is it worth the $200 and the shipping and the hassle to deal with somebody, or is it better to give it to a group of kids that are going to make, their own little films. And that's kind of a value call and a judgment call and how you want to be involved in your community.
Yeah, our general rule of thumb is if we haven't used it in a year, then we're relegating it to some other purpose. I'm kind of the mindset that it makes more sense to hold on to something as an emergency problem solver, or if somebody needs, just to loan some gear, they're interested in learning about audio, you can give them that kind of stuff and, without concern of it taking from your primary package or something like that. So it's you kind of get a 2-for-1 if you hold on to it. But, if it's a more practical item like a 411, for example, that you want to turn into an SRC or a DSR4 or any of the other sort of competing brands like that, then maybe it makes more sense to get the monetary value from it, as opposed to if you have a 190, for example, don't bother trying to sell that. Just hold on to it as an emergency problem solver. Once it reaches a certain age, just hold on to it is my recommendation.
I'll roll in and out of gear too, based upon the project. I'll have 6-8 wires that I keep all the time, but if I get a project that needs 10, whatever, I'll buy a couple of more. When the project's done, I'll sell them off.
Go ahead.
Another option is to sell your gear overseas. I don't think anyone mentioned that yet, but there is a pretty good market overseas in a lot of the other countries there. Film production is happening, so that is an option, especially for a lot of the equipment that is illegal now in the United States due to the repack. So a lot of the higher, older block stuff, you can still get some monetary value to do an upgrade or reinvest in your kit essentially.
The thing that I'll get to you in a second. The thing that I really didn't mention is buying gear and buying new gear is really about where do you see yourself going? You know, if you have the job lined up, obviously, like we get this call a lot where it's like, I've got something tomorrow and I need 4 channels, help. And that can be that's a big ask, right? I mean, sometimes you have to plunk down $12,000 and that's like, you know, you have to saw off a leg and then you can't work because you have no legs and, you know, whatever. But so some of it can be like looking forward into the future and being like, you know, well, I really want to do X. So how do I start to build my kit to get to X? You know, whether that is, you know, doing, you know, having 8 channels on a cart to do to do films, or whether that's to have, you know, lots of channels to do reality or what have you, but trying to see like where you're going so you can build up gradually, or, you know, so that you can have financing in place to be able to pull the trigger on that stuff when you get the job that's ultimately going to pay for it. So it's like buying new gear is an investment in your future, but sometimes it's hard to see where your future is going to go. So you have to kind of, you know, vision board and do all that stuff.
You have a question, I think?
I said vision board. I'm kidding. Ayahuasca, whatever that means. Okay.
We'll get to it.
So the question is, what do we envision the time frame for upgrading to digital will be in terms of major markets and digital markets? I mean, so people have been switching over to digital gradually for the last 20 years. You know, I think Zaxcom came out with a digital transmitter 20 years ago, and they kind of put their toe in the market. These days, almost everybody, all the major manufacturers are switching to digital. So I think that you will see you know, not everybody's going to switch all at once, but I think that you will see most people starting to go digital now, that most purchases are going to be digital from now on. Everybody here with WYZICOM has amazing analog wireless, but everybody else here has digital offerings.
So I want to get back to the when for a second, elaborate on that, because
Sure.
that's kind of fascinating to me. I just bought a new camera like 2 months ago, didn't want to buy a new camera.
Sure.
Had no intentions of buying a new camera, but realized that there were some things that my old one didn't do or didn't do as well, just wanted the B cam, whatever. But what is like the golden rule for each of you to, you know, really think about upgrading? And is there a level of like how far you upgrade, or you talking about building your kit? So if you're younger and you're fresh in the game, you know, you got to start somewhere, but you don't want to just blow it out, right? You want to get there. So I'd like to hear your opinions on like really elaborate on the when, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, Stacy, you're in the field. Do you want to start off on this one?
Sure. So I've been doing this for a long time, like 40 years. And I just recently upgraded. I'm a cart-based mixer, mostly features and TV shows, pilots, and stuff like that. And for 20 years, I had a Venue electrosonics receiver, 6 channels, block 21. That was it. And in 2021, I did a TV series with Lisa and Tyler, and realized that because of the compacting of the band, and it was really hard to find 6 or 8 channels of clean audio. And then whenever I did find 6 or 8 channels of clean space, I could move 5 or 10 miles away, still in Dallas, and that was no longer clean. So I looked to upgrade because I wanted to be able to use wireless designer. I couldn't do that with my previous rig. I was to the point to where I was taking my SRC out of the bag and putting it on the cart because it was wideband, well, A1. And then the wireless boom plug-ons were wideband. So I could take those to some block other than 21 and have my 6 body mic transmitters in block 21. And that got me through, but it was a hassle. Like I was telling him, pulling out, you know, I go 10 miles away and I get all of a sudden pull out the old electrosonics card that shows me in block 21 what's the intermod frequencies that I can use. And so one of the main reasons I wanted to upgrade is so I could be able to use wireless designer. I also wanted that wider bandwidth. I bought 2 of the D2 electrosonics D2 receivers. So that gave me 8 channels It gave me the ability to do the new digital transmitters when I wanted to start updating the transmitters, but it also didn't force me to buy those transmitters. I could continue to use the old transmitters that work so well, and we continue to use them. Those were the main reasons that I made the jump. And then as time went on, as the show went on towards the end of the show, I got a couple of the digital plug-ons, and those sounded a lot better than the analog. I mean, there was more noticeable difference in the sonic quality in the plug-ons than there was the body packs. And I assume it's just because the type of microphone you're plugging into it. But those were my main reasons for updating. And, you know, it was a chunk of change. It was a lot of money. But as time goes on, I have, strangely enough, I have now sold off all the equipment. And I'm now just a bag and a couple of wires in a bag. But it's with digital transmitters and receivers. So, yeah, I mean, kind of to each their own. But the necessities will be individual to each person. But that's what made me make the jump.
You said you just sold recently?
Yeah, I sold the whole rig.
Where'd you
I'm
sell
out of
that?
here,
Did
Dud.
you sell on
I'm
Facebook
done.
or?
I don't know why I'm up here. Lisa Faust is the recipient.
Same, yeah.
If you need movie work, call Lisa. And then I in turn bought an 833, a bag recorder, and I have 4 wires. And so I'm kind of downsizing, starting to step out of I just didn't want to do features anymore. The days are long. Friday days I hated. I mean, this not what this seminar is about, but you know, it's a bitch. It's
We
a
can
grind.
make it about that. No,
It's a grind.
But I think that is what the seminar is about. We're talking about, like, you know, where you envision yourself going, and that's it.
Well, yeah, I think that's what I was kind of getting at. Like, I bought a camera that I didn't want to buy necessarily, but I saw a need. I had a couple jobs come up. I needed to upgrade, even though I wasn't really planning on it. I was just kind of getting by, which I think that's when you're in like the freelance game, you are just kind of getting by, right, with your stuff, and you're figuring out what you have, and then as jobs come along, and then I need this. Okay, I need to get this. I need to get this, and then all of a sudden you start seeing the dollars add up. But then you talk about charging, like,
Yeah.
how do you charge for that? Which I think is fascinating. I think were you going to go somewhere with this a second ago? Not you, Jack. Tyler.
No, I wasn't, but
But I was.
were you?
Go ahead, Jack.
Go ahead, Jack.
So Tyler and I own Dependable Expendables, and we love to sell wireless. We sell, wireless from various different companies. But I'm also a user, and I'm notoriously cheap. I do not like to buy gear. So I can see it from both perspectives, right? And, we own a lot of wireless, Tyler and I, and so whenever we make a change, it's kind of a big change. We're not looking at buying 1 or 2 channels. We're looking at buying 40, 50 channels of wireless. So for us, whenever we're looking to make a change, it's really the work that we have that dictates it. We do a lot of sort of very large cast reality shows. It's not uncommon for us to have, 20, 24 cast members on a show. So a lot of the new technology makes it a lot easier for us to do our work. We don't really make any more money off of it, we flat out do not make any more money off of it. Nobody really cares what technology we're using. The line producers don't ask, they don't care. As long as the audio sounds good, then that's all that they care about. But we are in a situation to where some of the new technology makes a lot of sense for us. But I know that there's a ton of people out there that don't ever do anything with these bullshit shows that Tyler and I work on. Their careers are based on corporate interviews and things like that, where they're using 1 or 2 wireless, and the talent is 15 to 20 feet away from them at all times. And if that was my career and that was my bread and butter, I would think really hard about investing all the money in the new technology because I don't know what benefit it would be to me. So like I said, it may be a benefit for people that are in the same situation that Tyler and I are in, but there's a whole lot of other people that I just don't see that it would be really difficult to try to influence that person to spend the amount of money that this new technology costs whenever it wouldn't make them any more money and wouldn't even necessarily allow them to do their job any better.
there's a difference between practical and cheap, though, right? Like you can be cheap and like,
Oh, I'm just cheap.
okay, that's fine. But like, but that but you get what I'm saying, though. I mean, you can figure out like, does this make sense? And then, or am I just being really stingy and I just don't want, like, I didn't want to,
Yeah.
but then I decided I finally had to. But I had a job that made sense and whatever. So I think there's a difference between being practical and cheap. And I think that's important for people to know that, like, if it does make sense, then go ahead and do it, but it should make sense.
Yeah, and I would
Business
argue,
model-wise.
yeah, I'd argue that with you guys, when you go with the newer technology, it makes your jobs easier and it allows you to deliver a quality product, and that's going to
Absolutely.
get you the next job, right?
Yes.
If you're there struggling on set and you're, even if it's a few minutes, who hasn't heard always waiting on sound, right? Like if you don't hear that on set, you are more likely to get that next job from somebody, either from that producer or from somebody else on set that's just like, man, that person really had it together. We were never waiting on them. And that's the goal, is to have like zero downtime so that, you can blame other people for things.
Well, I think the next gig that's the important. Like,
Right.
can I use this on the next gig? And then if you think you can use it and charge it on the next gig and the next gig, and then pay it off, then find a way to pay it off. I think that's important.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think the biggest benefit that I see in sort of digital technology and making the case to upgrade is ultimately the efficiency you have. It's on set, so it's going to be maybe a little quicker, especially the higher track counts you get, the better it's going to be for you. So if you're able to quickly deploy, 24 frequencies in 5 minutes as opposed to 5 hours, that's going to make you more efficient, and that's one of the things that's going to help you get a call back for the next time, because you can do the job in the little bit of time that we're already allotted, and there's a case there for just over delivering and under promising and that sort of stuff. But it does allow you to do your job either more effectively or more efficiently, and I think in both of those scenarios, it points to you being a better candidate for the next call. So that's something to consider that you can't really necessarily put a dollar amount on. You're not going to be able to charge more, but yeah. Turkey, you good?
You get the PAs on that?
Waiting on audio.
Yeah.
Just waiting on audio.
Another costly sound delay for sure. But so it's something more to consider than you can really just put a dollar on. So that's something to consider moving forward. The higher track counts you get, think about that.
Yeah, I really think that upgrading wireless is probably more about making my job easier, because I defy just about any of y'all to tell the difference between an analog transmitter signal versus a digital for the most part. They sound about the same, maybe a little difference with a plug on, but it sure makes my job easier. Like he says, you can deploy lots of frequencies real fast. You don't have to do all the crap you used to have to do. So that really is ease of use, I think, is what you're buying yourself.
Yeah, and I love what you mentioned earlier about having sort of you can kind of baby step or stair step into it, of having, like, we're kind of talking about digital, but that's not totally true when you get into a sort of hybrid equipment that's capable of both digital and analog. So, because we still operate most of our shows on a largely analog system, using some new interfaces from digital products. So you can still use analog, which you can get on the used market a lot cheaper, and still have some of the capabilities of the digital wireless stuff, albeit not the actual features that make digital so compelling. But being able to have access to software integrated to frequency coordinate, that sort of thing, that's what's going to make a big difference in your efficiency. So there's still a very cost-efficient way to do that if you look on the used market by staying analog.
So two things I want to say. Number one, obviously, like, this is a panel discussion, but it's definitely, if you have questions, just let us know. That's kind of the same for online. The other thing I want to liken it to in my personal life is my 2008 Volkswagen Passat. And for me, it's been a fine car. It's got 140,000 miles on it, and the check engine light hasn't turned off in 2 years. So for me, like, just the fact that my current gear is getting long in the tooth, and I don't know when it's going to stop working, is a reason to upgrade. So, like, if you find yourself struggling on set with what you have, either because something's broken or because it's outdated, like that's probably a pretty good signal that it's time. You know, if you have to hit it to make it work.
And somebody can see you struggling too. Like
Right.
that's not you're not just getting by. Like if you're struggling, and you think you're struggling, and somebody's. I mean, as a producer, like I will notice that. I'd be
Right.
like, what the hell's he doing over there? He's not okay. Waiting on audio. You know, keep going.
Yeah.
Keep going.
Oh yeah. No. it
Jack, I'm not
happens all
talking
the
about you
time.
right now. You're fine.
You are.
I know something that I sell to people in the sense of this kind of like realm is I really put the ball in your court, and I'm like, I sell workflow. So we all have different workflow. So that is a huge component in my mind on how we operate. And so like some people might be cool with the transmitter that doesn't have any screens on it. Some people may prefer to like have like a confidence check and like, oh, I can look at this thing and see that it says something that tells me that everything is okay and I can move on and then do something else to allocate my time with. That's really a bigger, like part of the bigger scheme of like working efficient, working confidently, believing in your gear, and just like knowing the ins and outs of like how that kind of functions. Because if if you have a good grip on all of that, then maybe you don't need to upgrade. But if there's something that you're kind of constantly reaching for, or that is out of reach and you can't do that function or feature, then maybe that's something to consider. You want to incorporate into your workflow. And to Stacy's point of like buying receivers that allow you to do both digital and hybrid, I'm also a big component of like having a modular kind of workflow. I know personally that works for me. I like being able to do a little bit of this and a little bit of that. I feel like we are all in that same world where we don't like to commit. So that falls right into place where it allows you to do both, keep your analog gear, buy some of that stuff that's used on the market, have a backup, or have, upgrade your talent, wireless, your primary stuff, and then you can still keep the rest of your gear kind of, analog or dated before you get time to upgrade that. So just taking your time with those kinds of things and really trying to discern how that gear is going to function within your entire kit and with you personally as, just a workflow kind of thing.
Yeah, something else to keep in mind too is that remember is you upgrade. Let's first say, for example, I go from Electrosonics to Shure or Zaxcom or whatever. You got to update all your microphones too because the connectors aren't the same. And if you got 15 wires that you got to either sell or re-terminate, that's a pain in the butt. So that's another nice thing about Electrosonics is that the connectors are the same. Just saves you money, saves you time, saves you hassle.
Yeah, this conversation doesn't even to begin to scratch the surface about which wireless system would be right for you or which you'd prefer. And I think
it kind of goes back to the right tool for the job.
Right.
And as I understand it, one of the vendors that was at our office the other day was sort of ribbing us because they went down to our area and saw a couple of 788s still on the shelf. But I will tell you, it's the right tool for the job. So I know that I'm sort of jumping around from wireless to mixers, but the analogy holds true. Like, I love our 788s. Like, we also own, Scorpios, etc. But sometimes the 788 is the right tool for the job. And the same goes with wireless. You can have the latest and greatest technology, but it's not always necessarily necessary. It's not always the right tool for the job.
Yeah, you're not going to mount an SRC on a DSLR. You're going to go with a G4.
Correct.
Yeah.
But so when you're talking about, do you have a question? Somebody? Anybody?
One of the things I was going to say about the avenue I took of upgrading my wireless, first of all, Tyler gave me, back when I started, he's like, I'll rent you stuff. And instead of me bringing it back and forth, he let me keep it, and I would just tell him when I used it. He would invoice me, and I'd pay it, and move my way on.
We don't want that to be common knowledge.
No, that's right. Not anymore.
Moving on.
He's got so much use for yours. But one of the things that we start getting busy enough, Nick came into play because I buy through Gotham, but going through his financing department or Red, it's very easy to go buy two wires, one receiver, and pay it off within a year. If you're busy enough to be able to do that, $200 a month, that's a great way for a beginner or somebody without a lot of gear to get some high quality stuff. And you know what? 80% of your jobs might only take 2 wires.
Yep.
So you're good on your way to go. And then when you get through, you might find you want 2 more wires. Next thing you know, they want you to give some IFBs, or you want to try a wireless butt plug or a boom, wireless boom. It's easy to add one piece at a time if you can get a little help with the financing. And it's so easy these days to be able to do that. So that's another way to be able to upgrade your wireless. If you're working with something that's old and outdated, like you're talking about, Nick,
Yep.
you get one piece at a time, and it's a lot easier to do these days than it has been in the past.
Yeah. So what he said, just so everybody could hear, was that having financing or having the ability to do financing, and there's a lot of different financing options there. We have a bunch through Gotham. I'm sure Dependable has a bunch. But that you can actually, if you need to do a major upgrade for a job or multiple jobs, or just because like you're getting ready to break into the industry, having a bag that can be expandable, that you can have 2 high quality wireless, you can actually finance things for 12 months interest free or 5 years at a decent interest rate. A lot like buying a car, because some of this stuff is like buying a car. It really is that kind of price. So it's a great point you made, Jeff. Thank you.
A nice car.
A super nice car. Yeah, if you're getting a cart and a bag rig, like maybe 2 really nice cars.
Just for me to switch over to the Sure rig was almost 80 grand.
Yeah, I believe it. I do have any
And well worth it.
and well worth it. There's a couple of questions from online that we'll pose to the panel. So the Unmarketing group said the new sound devices Nexus is a technology tour de force for sure, but how do we all feel about putting all the receivers in one unit? I'll answer last, so you guys go.
I feel that it comes with advantages. I feel that it also comes with disadvantages. Like all things, there are going to be pros and cons. That particular machine comes with a lot of pros, in my personal opinion. There is maybe 1 or 2 cons to that as well. I don't necessarily want to elaborate on that here, but I just think that it really, for me, that I'm going to ask the question to the person who's interested in that, say, hey, like, how does that fit into your workflow? Does this limitation mess with you at any way, shape, or form? And if it does, then maybe we need to have a different conversation. Here's also an alternative method that you can do while maybe still using this same product gear to get around that issue. Is that going to be satisfactory enough for you? And if not, then we move on and we talk about the next thing.
Yeah, well, I was going to say with my existing workflow, the way when I would run a set, if something goes down, if a receiver goes down, let's say one channel, let's say I have all single channel receivers. If one of those channels goes down, I'm telling a producer, director, showrunner, etc., and I'm going to ask them to stop the action until I can get it fixed or squared away, whether it's a transmitter or receiver. So if having 8 of them go down all at the same time or more, there's not much of a difference to me to having one channel go down. So I don't see it as a big concern for my workflow, but again, that could change, like TK said, based on your exact workflow. Obviously, you have a little more leeway if one channel goes down versus a lot. But at the end of the day, I'm stopping the scene as best possible. Doesn't work with live news, but I don't know that that's...
So Tyler and I differ on most things. This one is no different. I think there's a huge difference between one channel going down and 8 channels going down. I can potentially work around one channel going down. I'm tiny, so I can slide in there with a boom and stay out of the shot. 8 channels, that's a different story.
I'm stopping all the action.
And I'll speak too about the fact that, yes, as you get smaller and everything in one package, it's like Electrosonics, we're looking at the new 4-channel digital receiver they have. It's awesome. But good God, for an old man like me with eyes, the little buttons, I mean, as they pack stuff into smaller packages, it becomes, no offense, less user-friendly. It's just the way it is. That's a factor. Certainly don't. I wish that, like, Zaxcom had the old Diva screen that was touchscreen, that I could control the Diva and the wireless, and that was awesome. But we seem to have gone to the smaller the screens, the better. Whatever.
Yep. And yeah, for me, I just always think about, what is your backup plan? So, if you put all of your eggs in one basket, and I'm not, we talk about like what to do with your old wireless, like I might keep a channel or two in the instance that I only have one receiver just for kicks. But to me, if something goes down, I'm flying in there with a boom, and that's and there's going to be no downtime as best I can do.
Yeah, you better have two of everything.
Yep.
Everything.
Two of everything is the best, even if that they're not exactly the same. It's the best way to go. Okay, so any questions from in person before I go to the web?
I have one.
Tyler's got one.
Before you get into the next question, I wanted to bring up, before I forget, one consideration when you're looking at alternatives to upgrading wireless is considering why you really need to upgrade and for what reason. Because some of the things that, some of the scenarios that people will bring up where you need either more range or you need some sort of antenna setup or something like that could easily be solved with body pack recorders. So obviously there are some transmitters that have audio transmitting and body pack recording abilities, but there's also a lot of just simply body pack recorders. You don't necessarily need to have all of it in one package. So think about that as you're moving forward to look into, do you need more range or do you need more confidence, or what is it that you really need, and consider all of the alternatives, not just wireless.
And just to expand on that, we have been in situations where we did need both recorders and wireless at the same time. We didn't have access to the equipment that could do it simultaneously for that particular show, so we just had a little cable built where you just sort of loop through essentially two packs on the same person, one records. Yeah, we built the cable. It's legal. It's fine. Okay.
He's going rogue.
You just basically loop through.
Is the cable illegal?
There's a workaround.
Hot mic.
Turn this mic off.
Okay, great. Anyway,
just
next question.
More or less legal.
But no, that's a good point. I mean, thinking about what it is you need for your job, for sure. So whether it's, wireless packs and records, separate recorders. I back in the day did something with off-road racing, and I don't know what was wrong with me, but I brought a Zaxcom Diva and Electro Venue and decided to remote antennas to try to get these cars, and it was just like, thinking about it, like I had the recorder and I just brought the wrong wireless. If I'd brought the recording wireless, it would have been fine. But no, I was running antennas hundreds of feet. All right, anyway, so next question on marketing group again. Yeah. The new technology is great. How important is serviceability, particularly through the current supply chain issues and availability of rental add-ons? I'm going to go ahead and say that's a personal question. I do think both of those things are important. I think that having a company that you trust to be able to repair equipment quickly, that you can ship things to quickly and get them back quickly is important. Getting items that you can rent more of is important, but it really depends on who you are, what your market is, what your preference is. But where you rank that in terms of what's important is really, it's kind of up to you.
Yeah, it definitely a personal preference. I would say in that regard, make sure you consider authorized third-party service centers. That's something that gets overlooked quite a bit. You don't necessarily have to send it back to the manufacturer. A lot of the manufacturers have really amazing training programs for service technicians. So whatever your wireless system is, check into possible third-party authorized repair service centers.
And sometimes you can do it yourself. I mean, with lavs, if you are handy with a soldering iron, you can probably fix it yourself.
I think another thing that factors into that is the ubiquitousness.
Yeah.
The availability of replacement
another beer.
here. If everybody in your community is using one particular brand, and you can borrow one from a buddy whenever yours goes down, that certainly factors into it. There's different communities. A lot of us have different preferences, but if something of mine goes down and I can just call Stacy and grab one because he has 6 of them, then that factors into it.
Yeah,
as well.
that's a huge factor. It really is. We used to back in the old days. We used to build packages based upon what the other mixers, because the frequencies were fixed frequencies. And so it's like, okay, what did Michael Haynes have? He had 4 of this, so I got 4 of this. And if we ever needed to swap,
Yeah, 100%. We all talk here in Dallas. Like we know what blocks are good for Talent Wireless, and then we have sort of a certain unofficial section of the band for IFB, et cetera. So we can easily trade around and have a lot of compatibility and for whatever it is that we need. So make sure you're like, because I know we got people in Austin, people in Houston, Tulsa, all that kind of stuff. Talk to your other mixers. Find out what bands are working for everyone, and the better chance that you have of getting all of your IFB in a certain band or block, the better chance that you can have for being bailed out in an emergency.
yeah, and because no offense, getting things fixed is the least of your concerns when it first breaks. That's whenever you're like, where can I find another one?
Oh, good point.
Right.
Good point.
And we have a small Zaxcom community here in Dallas too.
Yep.
Very small, yeah.
Electro and sound devices.
I wasn't brand specific, Jeff.
After people that can help out too.
Well, and this brings up, we talked about selling used gear, and that's a great point, is the power of, social media and online, Facebook and Instagram and all the groups. It used to be, the JW Sound News Group, and now there's really an ability to access the community, and it's great that you guys put on this event so that people can meet people.
You're welcome.
So did we decide if it was ubiquity or ubiquitousness? Availability, yeah, that works.
I just want you to keep riffing, really. So,
So next question is from Peter Schneider, who I think I know. He said, any caveat to be aware when financing a large purchase? And this is kind of a shell stick, but yes, if we talked about interest-free financing, it's only interest-free until you forget to make a payment or until you don't pay it all off in time. So what these interest-free things do, whether it's PayPal or Bread or Synchrony or anything, is they make their money, number one, from the vendor. So they take a cut of what it is to the vendor. But then if you miss a payment, they will charge you interest not just for the payment that you missed, but for the entire thing. So you will then get whacked for some ridiculous amount, like 20%, for the entire purchase. So now your $1,000 purchase becomes $1,200, and it's ridiculous. And I had a friend of mine that did that with a cat surgery, and they forgot their very last payment, and then all of a sudden, boom, done. So yeah, that is something to be aware of. Yeah, Jeff.
Something else you can find particular vendors that will do like a package deal.
Yeah.
It's like 4 wireless, 2 IFBs, one receiver, and you can get the whole thing under one. And that's a good way to go.
Yeah, I would say it's important to remember that your resellers, no matter who it is, whether it's any of us up here or otherwise, we're not in the financing business. We're not the ones that are sort of handling that process in any way. Or I can speak for us. I'm sure that's the same for you guys. That's all sort of third-party entities that are trying to help you guys and us as well make buying a little easier if you can control it. Like for me, when I first started out freelancing, and I'm sure 90% of everybody here can understand this. We don't have real jobs. The banks don't think we have real jobs anyway. And so I had to take out like a peer-to-peer loan, and just based on what people thought about me. And it may be there's a lot more tools now that are available to where you can, at the very least, divide a $10,000 purchase into 4 payments as opposed to all or nothing. So that's really nice, but please read the fine print, understand what you're getting into, understand the big picture, what you have coming up, and sort of a fallback plan of all of that sort of stuff. So just wanted to mention that. Please be responsible.
So the other thing I want to say, just while we ask for questions, I feel like we're getting close to time, yeah? Okay, well, I mean, we'll keep going as long as we want to. But in terms of selecting your wireless or your camera or whatever, like we talk about it being a really nice car, right? Like you're going to want to test drive the car. I really encourage people, if you have not used a piece of equipment that you're interested in, don't buy it sight unseen, because like I just went to test drive a particular SUV that I thought I was going to love, and I hated it, right? So you don't want to buy, $7,000, $8,000 worth of wireless, get it home, and hate it and hate yourself for the next like 5 years because you're just suffering through it. And it may not be that it's bad wireless. It may just be like, it's not for you. It's not what you like. It's not what you're used to, whatever. So
Yeah.
like, we're a big proponent of like, call us and demo it. And like, you know, you pay for shipping, you keep it for a week and try it out. And if you love it, then we can talk about buying it. But like really educated purchasing for for purchases of this size with any of it is important.
It's like reviews, right? Like, I mean, get a referral. Like, call your buddy who you know. Like, don't just read the review because that person likes it, but call Tyler or call somebody that you know. Like, hey, you know me, you know what I do. Call somebody that you know and you trust because, again, it's like you said. Like, I'm glad you brought that up because it is like test driving a car you've never driven before or anything like that. Because you have to figure out if it's the right purchase. And it might be a great product, but it might be a few $1,000s more than you want to spend, and you don't really need that. You know, go ahead.
Yeah, like we're going to distribute a contact list of everybody that was here, as much information as you were willing to give. If you know somebody that has a particular piece of equipment, whether it's wireless or otherwise, reach out to them. If you're thinking about buying it, reach out to them. As we all know, sound guys love talking about this shit. So don't be afraid to get all the ins and outs of how their workflow is compared to yours, et cetera. And like Nick said, talk around, test drive it, demo it, come into the shops, talk to other mixers that have that same gear. They're going to give you the nitty gritty of everything. So
Yeah.
highly, highly recommend do not buy without using it first in some capacity. Whether you're on a shoot that requires it and the client rents it and you get it hands-on that way, that's a great way. But even if you're just kind of messing with it on your own project or make some of your own content so that you can use it in a low pressure setting to where it's not life or death, that sort of thing. It's a really great way to be also sort of express your creativity in a very non-creative position, in my opinion, that sound is.
Yeah, and you know, Gotham has stuff available. I strongly encourage you to bring the stuff that you currently own and come to a side-by-side comparison. You can come up to our shop. You can get it from Gotham. We're all very good buddies. Nobody's competitive about selling stuff. But just get your hands on it and do a side-by-side with what you currently own and see if it's going to be a smart purchase for you.
Yeah, chances are your wireless rig will be the most expensive thing in your kit.
Yeah, once
Didn't
you get
used to
all
be
of
that
them.
way, but now it is.
Yeah, for sure. And this kind of philosophy, the idea is that we can apply this to everything. You know, whether you're buying a camera, whether you're buying a car, whether you're buying a recorder, and just in terms of like differences, like you should go check out the Zaxcom Nova and the Kantar X3 that are next to it. They're both wildly different. They're both great. They would both work for anybody, but it's like it's a different personality, and it's the same thing with the wireless. And Jack, I have good news for you. The host, Jared, says that both ubiquitousness and ubiquity are acceptable.
Great, I appreciate that. And since we're about out of time, I just want to take this moment to thank everybody: Ashton, TK, Tyler, Stacy, Nick, who somehow managed to shoehorn his friend's cat surgery into the conversation.
Yeah.
It's been a fun time. Thanks for the discussion.
Yeah. Any last minute questions, or should we wrap it up? What's that? The cat survived. Yeah, the cat's fun. The cat's fine.
I thought he said Cat 5.
Cat 5.
We were going to go
Cat
into
5
a
or
I
Cat 6.
swear he
Dante
said
can
Cat 5. I was like, wait, I know that.
Dante next year.
Finally, I could
I can contribute.
Great, thanks.
All right,
All right,
guys.
awesome.
Thank you
Thanks,
very
guys.
much. Appreciate
very
it. guys.
much.
Thank you. Thank you to all of our panelists.